Can I bring my dog in?
Yeah, sure.
I want to leave him outside.
Sure.
All right.
How are you?
Not bad.
Good to see you.
Yeah. I think my tank's finally ready.
Yeah?
I'm done with the cycle.
So you've been testing your water, dosing, and taking care of it?
Yeah, I've been testing all the basic stuff. I mean, I don't have the alkalinity of calcium and magnesium. I want to start getting forward.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
if you can let me know where I'm at.
All right. Well, let's find out. You still do weekly water changes with water from us?
No, not really.
Not really.
I don't need to go to work. I'm just doing local.
Oh man. Well, if you want to start getting corals, first I'm going to refractometer. So one of these good. We don't have the refractometer. Alright, so if you want to keep corals, it's important to maintain the three big elements and dose according with 3 parts, or do effective water changes with stable water that's balanced. You need stable alkalinity, stable calcium, and stable magnesium along the same levels of what natural seawater goes by. And I'll explain each one as I'm testing here, but you can get these 3 test kits. You know, they're really inexpensive. I mean, this is the carbon hardness or the alkalinity test kit. And really, it costs $7 or $7, I believe. And you get about 50 to 100 tests out of it. So it's really, you know, it's inexpensive. And then the calcium test kit comes with 2 bottles, and this one's $12. And this will make sure that there's enough calcium available for your corals to actually solidify and grow skeleton. The alkalinity is going to control your pH, which allows your invertebrates like anemones and starfish and corals to actually not break down or deteriorate if the pH fluctuates, which it will happen normally.
Yeah, my pH has been a little low.
Okay.
At 7.9.
Okay. And that's when you're getting close to the threshold of what could harm, you know, invertebrates, especially corals. Fish have the ability to move around, you know, but corals don't. So you can have success with a fish tank and have low pH like that. But once you start stepping into stony corals or starfish or anemones, you know, they don't have the ability to maintain their balance, and they rely on stable pH around 8.0 to 8.3. Really, 8.3 and 8.2 to 3 is much better. So your alkalinity will buffer that and keep your pH at that level, which is more desirable. So let's find out what you got. First, I'm going to fill this to 5 milliliters. I just use a standard API test kits. I trust them. I mean, some people have specific test kits they like. I just use the API because they're inexpensive and I've never had one let me down yet. Looks like Fido's having some fun. Maybe too much. Alright, so now I got the 5 milliliters for the calcium and alkalinity. Now all I'm going to do is just shake up my test kit a little bit. You always want to shake it up. Now what happens is as you drop it in, you want to be straight up and down. 2, 3, 4, 5. So basically your carbon hardness, or what a lot of people call alkalinity, is going to be good at 8 to 9 drops. Well, you can see it's blue now at 5, so the second it turns yellow is where you want to be dosing or raising that alkalinity, because your pH is draining that alkalinity past that point of where it's maintaining like natural seawater. So that's at 5, so let's see, this is 6, shake it up again, still blue, 7, shake it up, still blue, 8, see it's starting to change color, so you're at about 8.5. There you go. So you're at about 8.5, which is acceptable. I usually try to maintain it around 9. You know, my DKH around 9, because then I have a little bit of a buffer just in case I go on vacation or I skip a day and I don't dose. Then my alkalinity drops, my pH doesn't stay down and not get buffered. So 8 or 9 is okay, but now is when you want to test and watch it. And then we carry Aquatic Essentials. There's a lot of ways to actually buffer your pH, but we carry, or your alkalinity, but we actually carry Aquatic Essentials. It's a new brand. It's pretty proven. That's all I use. That's all I use. Yeah, and you know, if you like the results that I get. So, you know, if you like that, I mean, I'm not giving you any snake oil or teaching you anything that, you know, I wouldn't do myself. So I don't use any other products except for what natural seawater really calls for. So I try to maintain my water at natural seawater levels, and all my animals thrive. So I've had good success with the Aquatic Essentials. It's really good.
Is it expensive?
No, it's actually less expensive than most of the other brands out there.
Okay.
So
awesome.
You can get competitor brands for about $30 or $32, and we sell for $28 for a gallon set. So you get a gallon of alkalinity and a gallon of calcium, and that'll last you. What size tank do you have?
It's a 50 gallon.
A 50 gallon, and you don't have a heavy bio load, so or stony coral draw. Not yet. Yeah. So you're really looking at that for a month, or for a gallon each. That's probably going to last you about 6 months. So you're talking about a very small investment into what's going to create stability in your tank. Especially compared to other products out there. So it's worth it. So your alkalinity is good. You're halfway home to getting stony corals.
All right.
So now this one, this is a 2-part titrant test. So the first one, you're going to add 10 drops and then shake it up. And then this is the titrant. You get about 200 tests out of this, I believe. I don't remember exactly, but it's a lot. You're not going to, this will last you a couple months too. And for $12, I mean, you can't beat that. Answer the phone, bitch! Alright, so this test gets really reliable, and you get a lot out of it for the price. So now this one, you want, every drop is equivalent to 20 parts per million of calcium contained in the water. And natural seawater is about 380 parts per million, so that would be equivalent to 19 drops. On an aquarium, we usually like to stay around like 22, 23 drops. So as you drop this in, it's going to be pink, and then when it turns blue, that's where your test ends.
Okay.
So I usually like to start around like 15 to 18. Wow, it's already low. Your calcium's low in your tank, so you have to raise that. You haven't been dosing? Okay, so now you know you have a deficiency in calcium, and you want to raise that. And there is directions on the container, so you just have to raise it accordingly so it's within natural seawater. And I'll give you the information in a packet that I have that's written by a gentleman with a PhD in chemistry, and he just happens to be an aquarist, so it's really good info, and it breaks down every parameter where you should maintain it, why, and what's not worth maintaining. And there's a lot of products on the market that aren't worth maintaining that people sell items to maintain it. It's just not worth it. The calcium is definitely worth it. So with low calcium, I'm already going to assume that your magnesium is low, because calcium has a relationship with magnesium just as pH has a relationship with alkalinity. So if your calcium is low, your magnesium is going to be low. Magnesium is really the cornerstone of a healthy tank. A lot of people don't have the ability to grow coral and algae, and that's because they don't have any magnesium. So coral and algae is the same as any other algae, but it's calcareous algae. So that means it requires calcium and magnesium in a proper level. So if you could dose calcium all day, but if your magnesium is low, you're never going to get coral and algae. It just won't happen. You'll get other algae instead because there's not enough calcium in the water to build. There you go. So if you start limiting the nutrients that you put in, and you actually dose your magnesium, it'll actually bond with the calcium or prevent the calcium not going from bonding and precipitating, which will cause the coral and algae to have enough calcium to actually solidify and out-compete the other algae.
Okay.
So let's just test your magnesium, though. It's a pretty confusing test kit, but this is probably the hardest one, and it's actually the most expensive, but this one you don't have to test quite as often as calcium and alkalinity. So you get 2 milliliters of this one. I still use the API test kit. So this is first dropper is 5, so you drop 5 in. Shake it up. And then this is the second one. This will actually give it some color. Shake this guy out a little bit. Now it's red. So just as the calcium, when it turns blue, that's when it's done. So you really want
So it's another titration.
Correct. Yeah, and that a lot of test kits are like titration tests. They're test kits like that. So what you do is you fill this to the 1 milliliter line, and then you want to get this to where it turns blue. So I'm going to go until it starts to turn blue, which is about there. Okay, shake it up, and it's still not blue. So now I'll keep going.
It is.
There you go. Now it's blue. So now that's about where you know your magnesium is at. If you look at it, actually, this is a little bit below the 0.4 line. And then according to the chart, if you look, the 0.4, you minus it by the 1 milliliter. So 0.4 minus 1 milliliter is equal to 0.6. So then you're here at 0.6, which is 1200, which is a little low. So you're going to want to bump your magnesium up now. And like I said, you know, we use Aquatic Essentials. It's a lot less expensive than the other products on the market, but they're all based off the same recipe and it's all the same ingredients. So you don't have to spend as much, and you can bump it up, and then you get more growth and more stability out of your aquarium by using it. But yeah, you'd want to bump this up to where it's about 1320 at a minimum, and then you'll be okay. So you need about 1,020 more parts per million of magnesium in your water.
So I need a lot more magnesium, calcium.
Yes. At this point, yes. But once you bring your magnesium up to the proper level, it'll actually stabilize for the most part. And right now you have a lot of unusable, you have low calcium level, plus it's a lot of unusable calcium, so your corals aren't going to grow at this point. You know, they're going to actually have stunted growth.
So where does the unusable calcium come from?
It comes from your salt. It's in your, when you mix your salt and do a water change.
Okay.
And then if you're dumping in calcium and you have no magnesium there, it'll actually precipitate, harden, and it'll cloud your water. So, you know, you go into places and you see our water is usually crystal clear, and you wonder how that happens. Well, that's because we keep our magnesium levels at the right level. You know, that's why two-part, calcium and alkalinity is actually separated, because without magnesium levels, the calcium and alkalinity actually bonds together, precipitates, and hardens. That's why a lot of water change reservoirs, if you've ever seen one, it'll actually have like a cake on the side. Well, that's because of the lack of magnesium. So the salt, when you mix it, it's actually bonding. The alkalinity and calcium is bonding due to the lack of magnesium.
Okay.
We're getting a little too far out there, huh? But that's why I'm studying oceanography. I want to be an oceanographer. So water chemistry is like my thing. So I like to learn a lot about it. So if you ever want to know more about it, that's kind of a geek one to get. There you go. There you go. So you need calcium and you need magnesium before we can get you a stony coral. So even though I know you're anxious to buy some today, I don't want to take your money and have you, not have a coral that survives. So let's get your water right and come back next time and we'll get you some corals.
All right, that's fine.
Okay.